Yo, what's up everybody? It's Drewberry and we got another custom card review video for you guys today. This is number 22. In the last week's challenge, I set the task for you guys to come up with a card with 2 keywords from the basic keywords in the game, right? So no ability, on reveal, ongoing, discard, destroy, and move. So it just had to have a minimum of 2 of those in the text of the card. A pretty simple challenge, which opens up a lot of possibilities, right? If it's an on reveal, destroy something, then that counts. But you guys took it a step further and made some really creative cards. So I'm really excited to show you those today. But the next challenge is going to be power. So any card that has the keyword power in its text, and that's in reference to the power of a card. And as a result, this can have a few different possibilities, right? You can look at cards that give power like Ironheart or Silver Surfer, right? Or you could look at cards like Null who receive power based on a certain condition. So I think there's a lot of possibilities with this keyword, and I'm interested to see. We covered energy, now we're covering power. And if you'd like to submit a card, join the Berryverse Discord. The link will be in the description below, and you can create a custom card with this link right here. They are constantly improving this website. It is amazing. And then you can post 1 submission in the weekly challenge channel. Please only submit 1. If you want to submit something different, just go back and delete the old one. And I'd also really appreciate it if when you submit, if you can click transparent background on the link right there so that there's no background, it helps me out a ton. And really quickly, before we get to the winners, I just want to say thank you. We hit 10,000 subscribers today, and it's an incredible milestone that I'm really proud to have achieved, but it wouldn't have been achievable without you guys, especially this custom card community with the Berryverse supporting and submitting these cards. I literally could not make this series without your submission, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, and first we have my card. So I went with Fandral here, and he is a 4/1 ongoing. When a card is discarded, discard a copy. I wanted to use a sword user because that's always like the theme of discards, right? It's all about sword users, and they slash the cards, discarding them. So I just wanted to find somebody that's not actually used. Now I ended up picking Fandral here. So basically the idea is that if you can get copies, it's like an engine for your discards, right? So Morbius getting +4 every time a card is discarded because an extra card would be discarded. Hela would have even more options to bring back. It would be amazing, which might be busted, but let's not forget how easy the Hela deck is to counter. They set up the Invisible Woman, and then you try to play MODOK. You have to play the cards in a proper sequence, hope that they don't play Cosmo or any other disruptive counter like pulling cards, moving cards, anything like that. So it's hard to pull off. And this is just a win more in that scenario, right? You're already planning on discarding the cards. You already get so much power from the Hela deck. This just gives you even more. And maybe it's not even that good because maybe you have a couple cards in your hand that you discarded and then you get the copies of them, you summon them, and it's like, oh, I would have rather that been the copy of Infinite, not the copy of, I don't know, Black Cat or whatever else you're running. But I thought it'd be pretty neat. And then other synergies are like Wolverine, Apocalypse, Swarm, any of these cards that kind of regenerate or respawn, like you're going to discard 2 of them and then you're going to get 2 of them back. So APOC would return twice, which would be pretty neat because you'd be discarding it twice and generating a copy. And then same with Swarm, you'd actually get 4 Swarms back to your hand. That costs 0. That'd be crazy. And then Wolverine, you'd actually get 2 4-power Wolverines onto the board. So there's a lot of synergies in the discard archetype. And I don't really know how they go forward here with discard because we already have like the proper, I don't know, power to energy ratios for discard cards, like all the way to the top. MODOK was kind of like the last piece, right? That 5-cost discard card. So I was like trying to think of creative ways maybe that we could still discard cards to synergize with the decks. And I thought, you know, this was pretty good. Maybe too strong. It works really well with those decks, and especially MODOK. My goodness, you play Fandral, then you play MODOK, and then you play who knows what, whatever you want to play, your APOC plus Swarms or whatever on turn 6, right? And then if you set up Morbius earlier, dude, cash money. So yeah, maybe a little bit too strong. That's why I offset the power to be much lower and a bit of a tempo loss, but still synergizes with Zabu. You can still cheat it out early if that ends up being a deck out there. But I thought that'd be a cool option for discard. Number 10, Cabbage Cage and Infernite. So I'm cheating here, and they're probably going to be both pissed because I put them at 10, but really it's only placeholder 10. Honestly, I'd give you both number 1. There's so many number 1s this week, but like I loved both of these cards so much, but you guys picked the same character, so I was like, oh my gosh, that's difficult. And also with Infernites, which I'm going to get to in a second, I actually talked about that very same ability in a previous video. So when I saw that he made the card with that ability without knowing, we talked about it afterwards, I thought that was just a funny coincidence. And then Cabbage Cage is is awesome as well. Always crushing it with this art style. I adore it. So I just wanted to feature both. You can look at it as number 10. You can look at it as number 1. You can look at it as an honorable mention, whatever you want to call it. They both tie right here. So let's start with Cabbage Cage's card. So Cabbage Cage made Spider-Man 2099. Look at that art, so good. And the variants on the left are fire as well. My goodness, I'm so fired up for this character to just join the Marvel universe, see him in live action in the Spider-Verse movie. Oh my gosh. So on reveal, move all cards to the original location they were played, if possible. A 5/8, so pretty good power. And then moving all the cards back to where they were works beautifully with move decks. Honestly, this is probably broken. And you're going to see this as a recurring theme. Apologies. It's hard when you're trying to add 2 keywords and just, I don't know, people get out of hand with the custom cards. I find they end up being overpowered more often than not. But this one's definitely strong, dude, because not only could you move your opponent's cards back, like maybe disrupting them, but you'd also move, you know, your big power swings back to where you want, which is kind of what you do with Heimdall anyways. Then you could Heimdall on top of that on the following turn. This almost feels like a 6 cost play. If it was a 6/8, that would be pretty legit, I think, because you just set up that Vulture, that Human Torch, whatever else, you move them all back to where they were. It'd be interesting to maybe, I don't know, maybe if you had a disruption where you moved cards away from the Kingpin location, played Kingpin there, and then you play Spider-Man 2099, who moves them back and gets them destroyed at the Kingpin location. That could be pretty slick. That would be a pretty neat little combo there. But anyways, yeah, I'd just like to see this as a 6/8. But regardless, Cabbage Cage crushing it with the art. I absolutely adore this. Okay, let's get to the other Spider-Man 2099. All right, so here is Infernite Spider-Man 2099. I couldn't get a good resolution of the video. It wouldn't let me download it from his link. But regardless, it still looks super fresh. So it's a 3/3 on reveal. Next turn, remove the abilities of all ongoing cards. So this also, I think Infernite went ahead and changed the text afterwards. But basically, it's just for the next turn, okay? So it's not like permanently those ongoing abilities are removed. That'd be too broken. No, it's just a delay. So imagine your Morbius, right? Your Morbius would be fine. He'd lose his power for 1 turn, but he'd get it back by the end of the game, and that's all that really matters anyways. So it wouldn't actually affect him. But cards like, oh, I don't know, Cosmo, which does not have an available counter in the game, all of a sudden would be disabled for a turn, and I could play my Wong combo. I could do whatever in that Cosmo lane, and he will not be able to shut me down during that turn. So you could set this up on like turn 5 for your big turn 6 on reveals. Don't have to worry about any annoying ongoing effects that would ruin you. It also absolutely devastates like Invisible Woman, for instance, because all of a sudden her stuff's revealed and then it would show and then her ability would trigger again, but like you can't hide things. And like, oh gosh, that'd be terrible. Not to mention it's an on reveal and you could like trigger this again with like Absorbing Man or whatever else you need to, like, or maybe own an Odin on top or something like that, just to get an extra turn where you don't have to worry about Cosmo. I just really feel like we need a counter to Cosmo, and Glenn Jones, who's the design lead for Snap, kind of already hinted that they have plans for one of those cards in the future, and I thought this would be a great prediction for that. So I really like both these Spider-Man 2099s. They were awesome. I can't wait for this character. Let's go, but let's get to the top 9. Number 9, Starlight's Whirlwind. All right, so Whirlwind is in on reveal. Next turn, if your opponent plays a card, move this to its location and double its power, which is a very strong effect, and it's basically preying on the fact that your opponent could just pass the turn. So if you played this on 4, it's not that great because maybe they pass on 5 and they're not too worried about it. Then your Whirlwind is only 6 power, but you did get your opponent to not play a card, so maybe that's pretty good. But really, I think the best utility here is you use it on 5. Your opponent has to play a card on turn 6 because they want to win the game, and this moves and it gets 12 power. Now, of course, your opponent could find a way maybe to, I don't know, like play cards at locations that are already full on your side, so then Whirlwind can't move where you want him to. But I think for the most part, it's going to move, follow, double, and then it's going to be a 4/12 good value, hunts down your opponent's play, which is pretty nice. Unless it's a Shang-Chi, that'd be pretty spicy too. You know, like you have priority, or actually if they have priority, it doesn't even matter because movement happens first. So it would follow the Shang-Chi and just get destroyed. So that's a sick counter to this card, which maybe puts it in a level of balance, but I feel like for the most part, you basically get a 4/12 for free, but maybe you're basically leaving 1 unspent energy on 5 if that's your play. So it's almost like a 5/12, and maybe that's not so worth it. But it does seem really good. Not to mention it's an on reveal. You could also synergize that with other things. I think how Starlight had it worded originally too is that it would continuously follow multiple cards in a turn. I think that would be busted. I think this version is fine enough and could like maybe see play, or maybe be a little too strong. Maybe it has to go to like a 4/5 and then it goes to a 10, but we already have so many 4/10s in the game, so I don't know. But I thought it was a really cool idea. I love the idea of stalking down your prey and like also giving your opponent to deal with this big threat. They essentially get to choose where the card is going to go. Maybe they pull it over to a location that they don't care about with like a wasp, and then they put their other power cards there. Because I imagine the way it would happen, it would only trigger on the first card played that turn. It would follow it, double, be done. That's how I thought it would work. Maybe Starlight had it planned for otherwise, like following every card, but that just seems crazy. So anyways, great submission, Starlight. Let's get to number 8. Number 8, Harley's Sister Grimm. All right, so Sister Grimm is a 3 -1, and the -1 was specified by Harley to be -1 because this character plays a lot of like hurting itself to gain power. Okay, so that was the idea behind the lore for that power total. Okay, so obviously great with Mr. Negative already, as you can imagine. But at the end of each turn, discard a card from your hand. If it had an on reveal, activate it. Okay, so you have to find a way to incorporate discard with this, which might be a little bit difficult, but a lot of the discard cards have on reveal. So maybe just kind of like my card, it ends up being an engine for your discards, because they discard one thing and then it discards another thing and it keeps going and going and going. But then you have to watch out that you're going to run out of the value triggers. Like you want to discard your APOC, you want to discard your swarm. So that might end up being difficult. Maybe you just set up your hand to have amazing on reveals, just a whole whack of amazing on reveals, but maybe like not so great power totals, and they cost expensive. So what you do is you MODOK on 5 or even 6, and boom, you get the MODOK out for 8 power, but then you get all these on reveals just swarming the board because of Sister Grimm's ability. Like just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of like leader somehow. I don't know how that would work with location. I guess it would be from the Sister Grimm location to the right of that. Dr. Doom as another one, right? Just so many. I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of amazing on reveals, but you can just imagine the synergies that would spawn from that. I think that would be the best application for this card, which is a pretty exciting combination. It gives discard a different little twist, but maybe it's a little too easy to pull off because you can't really counter this. You can't destroy it. You can't, remove the ongoing ability. It doesn't have an on reveal, so you can't stop that unless you have Cosmo in the lane and it does trigger from this card. And maybe that's a counter. But otherwise, maybe it's a little bit busted. Maybe it's a little bit weak because it doesn't work in many decks. I don't really know, but it's really neat card. The art looks amazing. This looks like a Peach Momoko like skin, does it not? When I saw this, I was like, yes, this looks amazing. It reminds me of the Mystique one. And the other two variants were great as well. So really great job putting this card together. I enjoyed it a lot. I love the lore background. Thank you for that. So great job. Number 7, DaWreck's Brother Voodoo. All right, Brother Voodoo again. Dude, I talk about this card all the time. Everybody makes custom cards on Brother Voodoo. It's got to be one of the most popular characters being used, so I'd love to see it in Marvel Snap. But here we have a 1/1 interesting stat line. On reveal, cards destroyed next turn are instead added to the player's hand. They have no abilities. So this is interesting because this is a mutual effect. So in a way, I almost thought about this combination. I don't know how well it would work, but somehow if you can get Galactus out, because this is next turn. Cards destroyed next turn. So you play Brother Voodoo, you cheat out Galactus somehow, like maybe it's like a turn 4 wave and Brother Voodoo, and then Galactus out on 5, and you get all those cards back to your hand. You swarm your opponent's hand with all their stuff, and then you just find a way to beat them, but they have no abilities. So how do you make that work? Well, there's Patriot, right? So we could make it work with Patriot. That's a good combo. Collector, all those cards are going back to your hand, so that's going to buff your Collector. And then aside from Galactus, that one's a bit like of a Mimi thing. I just thought would be kind of neat, but then you could go with Killmonger, right? Just destroy all those 1-drops. The idea being that you'll return value because you probably built your deck around it to get those cards back, but your opponent probably didn't plan for that, and now they have a bunch of cards in their hand that are probably 1-drops that they don't really want to play, spend energy on, that don't have abilities working with their deck, and you probably just bricked their next draw because you destroyed so many. Now, hopefully, of course, they might not be playing a lot of 1-drops and you only destroy like a Sunspot or something like that, or you destroy nothing at all. So maybe that's not so great. But we could just lean more heavily into our own strategy of doing like a hybrid no ability destroy deck, where you're just looking to, get cards with no abilities out to buff with Patriot, but you run a small destroy package, like, I don't know, Carnage eating something up, Venom eating something up, that has reasonably high power. Maybe you look at that Venom with Typhoid Mary, that Red Skull, that kind of deck. You want to remove those abilities anyway, and Venom's a great way to do that and retain the power, but then you would have the free, whatever Red Skull's power is nowadays, you get to play him without worrying about his ability, which isn't so bad anymore. Jeez, they really butchered that card. Anyways, this is a really cool deck builder. This is a really cool idea. I also love the art. I haven't seen that one before, and the text you used is so Brother Voodoo. It's awesome, so spooky and everything. So this was an awesome one. Thank you. Number 6, Error's Hank Pym Ant-Man. All right, so we already have Ant-Man in the game, and you really couldn't know that well if it was, the Scott Lang or the Hank Pym. Like, they both were Ant-Man at one point in time, but we've seen it before where they kind of like mix up the universe and we'll have two similar characters. So I feel like this is acceptable. I think it's pretty neat. Hank Pym as a character, and Hank Pym in the movies, at least from what I've seen, he involves himself more with the ants. He tries to synergize with those ants, and that is what Error here captured. So a 1/1. Okay, very ant-like, ongoing, +1 power for each ant on the board. Growing in power with a bunch of ants, that makes a lot of sense. So that's pretty neat, but how do you get ants on the board? So on reveal, shuffle 3 ants into your deck. So you got 3 of these 1/1s in your deck, and an ant is also going to shuffle another ant into your deck. And I just thought this was so cool. Like, the idea of ants digging a tunnel in your deck, essentially, and then you got a bunch of ants swarming your deck. Not great draws, right? You're kind of ruining your draws almost, because you're buffing Hank Pym, but like, I don't know, like, how good is that going to be? I mean, okay, so let's think of some synergy. So Kazar, right? Because ants are 1s, so you get them buffed up. They got to be on the board anyways. So there you go. That's nice. But then another one I thought of is Mystique. Mystique with the ongoing tag, so that you kind of get these 2 growing in power cards. She can be the queen of the ants with Hank Pym. I thought that was pretty neat. And then, you get 3 in the deck, you draw, you play. If you can do this on turn 1 and you get enough ants, maybe you get like 5. That's pretty good value. Now, the problem is, your deck kind of sucks in a way. Any other cards that you brought to the table, like that Mystique, like that Kazar or Bloomer or whatever else, are going to be that much harder to dig to. I don't know. Maybe that's just the trade-off that you get for this pretty sweet value card. I mean, to beat the other Ant-Man, you'd have to have at least like, I want to say like 5 or 6 ants on the board. Like, obviously, you can get to the power total with just having 3 ants. Ant-Man being a 1/4 when his condition is met. This one being a 1/4 when 3 ants are present. But I feel like filling the location with ants sucks. It's not as good as filling with 3 cards that synergize with your deck. So to offset that, I feel like you got to get this to like 5 or 6, and then you get like 5 or 6 ants like chilling on the board that aren't doing a lot if you can't buff them. So I like how it's offset. I feel like an ant deck could be a lot of fun. Could be pretty good. Obviously, gets absolutely shredded by Killmonger. So maybe we're running Armor in there to help out. But regardless, really cool idea. Really great theme-wise, and with the ants, I love it. This was a great one. Number 5, Pircival's Spot. All right, so Spot. This was a really cool one. Jeez, the characters, like the Spider-Verse, man. I can't wait for that movie to come out. We got this character coming as a new villain. Looks really awesome. So Spot is a 2, -2. On reveal, swap places with the last card that moved. How neat is that? So I basically think that this gets run in like any kind of disruption deck. Like anything that's moving your opponent's cards so that you can get Spot over there. That's the idea, right? It's kind of like a Viper-esque play, except you're gaining power. You're getting whatever they had that you moved to your side, and you're giving them -2 power in a disruptive spot. So that's like, I was worried about the power level here, because here's an interesting one. On turn 5, you play Arrow. Like, the card that they're playing on 5 is probably pretty good. You could whiff and not hit anything, and then your Spot's dead in your hand. But oh my gosh, if you hit like that Devil Dino, it's over, dude. You play Spot on turn 6, you're gonna switch it over. You're getting that Dino, they're getting -2. Game over. That's so brutal. Or you could do it earlier. A little bit of a safer bet is Polaris. You already know they have that 2 or 1 cost card out on the field. You move it over with Polaris, condition met, you play Spot at a later turn, not one of those later crucial turns, but you get it over there and you take whatever they had. So that's pretty good too. Then I thought Magneto, much more difficult. You'd have to set up Limbo, cheat him out early, but that's again another movement card. You move one of their cards, you get a 12-hour card out, and you switch it over, and a 3 or 4 cost card being swapped is a big deal. So the conditions that have to be met are there. They're present. They're slightly difficult, but I don't think it's difficult enough. Another one I didn't even put here is Juggernaut, dude. Like you can just yeet somebody and then spot them over, swap and spot. You know, like oh my gosh, it's so disruptive. It's so much fun. I really do enjoy these kind of decks. The move decks, they're all about disrupting your opponent's plays and moving cards. That's why I'm excited about Stegron. But here we have Spot, who's just looking a little bit too broken, a little bit too strong compared to the Spider-Verse look that we got in the trailer. He looks a little bit goofy there. So anyways, really cool card, Pircival. I love the idea. It's simple. It's a simple, good idea. I could see this in Snap. There's like maybe possible balance concerns. But great card. Number 4, Truth Enjoyers Bullseye. All right, speaking of power concerns. So we have Bullseye here, who's a 3/1 ongoing at the end of each turn. Destroy a card in your opponent's hand and your deck if you're winning the location. Okay, so lots to break down here, but I want to start right here. The art looks sick. Dude, this looks so good. I hope this is a Bullseye variant because my goodness, it kind of gives me like Art Germ vibes a little bit, but oh my gosh, like comic style Art Germ. Oh my God, it looks so clean. It looks so clean. So good. I love it. But moving on to the ability. So ongoing at the end of each turn, destroy a card in your opponent's hand. So disruptive, right? You're destroying cards in your opponent's hand. That's so brutal. You get this on 3, you start just destroying things over and over and over again. Like that's really disruptive. And you're probably hitting their big late game plays, right? Because if they're playing those early curve cards, because that's what's in their hand, that's what they have the available energy to do, and then their 6-drop gets destroyed, like holy value, Batman, like that's just crazy. And then also on top of that, you're destroying a card from your deck, which should be a negative thing, right? But it's doing a couple things. It's thinning your deck out, and it's also buffing your null and your death is getting discounted. So I feel like a few of those synergies are just like way too crazy for this. Your null would be nuts. Your null would just be massive. If you draw it, you don't destroy it with Bullseye, right? But you're probably fine. Oh my gosh. And then you just keep destroying things. And then we could also discount that death to being free, or we can mystique the Bullseye. So we can continue to destroy things in our opponent's hands and our deck, buffing our null respectively, and getting that death discount. It'd just be crazy. This deck would form so beautifully. It'd be so nice. But here's the kicker, the last piece of this card, that you have to be winning the location. And Bullseye is not helping you. A 3/1 is not helping you out. And if you play Adam Warlock, who has a kind of a similar stat line, it's not easy to continuously win that location. So that's a bit difficult. And then maybe your opponent's big play ends up winning them that location and you're not destroying those cards anymore. Your destroy engine is now turned off. So that last line really keeps this card in check, but it's still maybe an issue. Regardless, it was just so neat. Like the idea of like sniping a card from your opponent's hand and then like sniping one from your deck and then working together in a destroy package every turn. Really neat. The artwork is so good. Well done, Truth Enjoyer. Number 3, Oblivitorium's Hope Summers. Yes, this card, dude, this card is so good. What a great idea we have here. And there's actually a keyword here that I really enjoy, that I would love to see more in Marvel Snap in some fashion. But here we have Hope Summers, a 2/3 on reveal, restore all disabled ongoing abilities at this location. Okay, so this is like a meta saver right now, right? Are you sick of being leeched? Don't worry about it. You can restore some of your ongoing abilities. Not the end-all solution, obviously, if you're running on reveals or anything else that's important. Leech is going to smack you in the face and remove those. But at least your ongoing cards, can have a little bit of life. What if you're running Patriot, right? So that's what Oblivitorium kind of mentioned, is that this works in tandem with Patriot because, yeah, those on reveals might have lost their abilities, but now if you can at least restore Patriot's ability, he'll buff them. So it might work out in your favor. And then the other counters are like Enchantress. So Enchantress just smacked your really important ongoing ability. That sucks. But maybe on turn 6, you play Hope Summers and restore that ability, and it's a big surprise burst. Like your Devil Dino, or just whatever else, whatever immediate value they got from that Enchantress, you all of a sudden bring it back and get a crazy power swing like Darkhawk, Devil Dino, Morbius, I don't know, Null, even if you had it out a little too soon, anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It'd be so sick to have that turn 6 swing. And then what if your opponent had 0 into Red Skull and you want to bring back Red Skull's negative ability? Well, then you can restore it by playing Hope Summers at the location, because it affects both yours and your opponents. Or even better yet is, you ever see people do with 0 into Ebony Maw, right? That's like a 10 power play and they don't have to worry about the constraint of not being able to play cards there anymore. I think it'd be pretty neat if you Hope Summers the Ebony Maw location, all of a sudden they can't play there anymore. And that was not according to their plan. And it kind of burns them a little bit for setting up that early combo. So I thought that'd be pretty neat. I really love the concept of the idea of this card using Restore. Restore is an interesting, it has minimal application, so I don't think you can make it an official keyword, but like one of those pseudo keywords would be pretty neat. And we don't really have anything in the game like this, and I think it could be much needed with how frequent Leech is popping up right now. Number 2, Equi's Lord Chaos. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, I was so happy to see this. So I had like a little mini challenge that I kind of told some people, but I didn't tell anyone about. When we did this keyword thing, I was like, in my head I was like, well, if somebody can put all the keywords in a card, make it kind of work, because that's not easy to do, and make sense, then I'm definitely going to feature that card. I'll be fired up if they can pull it off. And Equi, you did it. I love this one. And the character is perfect too, because this is an absolutely chaotic card. So a 6/6 on reveal, if you have an ongoing discard, destroy, move, and a card with no ability in your hand. So 5 cards, right, with various abilities. Don't have to worry about on reveal, but that's actually makes the most sense, because the most frequent card in Marvel Snap are on reveal cards. So the other abilities that are a little bit more difficult to deck build with. Okay, so that was 5. That's your condition in your hand. Play them to random locations on that big turn 6. So it's almost like a hella burst. You're trying to play all those cards, but you have to meet those conditions. You have to have those 5 cards. Maybe that's actually too easy to do. Like, you just put a bunch of those in your deck. You hope you draw efficiently, and you play like Adam Warlock with some high power cards just to draw through your deck. Once you have all 5 of those, you play Lord Chaos on 6, and that's it. You just win. But that is random locations. You gotta hope that's enough power. Like, there's still a few difficult things to pull off here. Not to mention, if it says destroy, that's probably not a good thing. Like, I don't even know, like Carnage, or like, I guess it would be like Null would be your best bet. That's like maybe an option, or Sabretooth, or I don't know, something that's not going to destroy your other cards, like not Destroyer. That's bad news. Unless you got armor out and you got lucky, like, you probably don't want Destroyer, you know what I'm saying? So this is so cool. So then I was thinking like some synergies, like, okay, we got to get these cards in our hand, so let's fish for it. Let's go with Agent Coulson. Let's go with the Nick Fury. Let's try to use Lady Sif on Helicarrier, and just get all those random cards to our hand and see what we can do. Oh man, I think it would be so fun. This would be such a fun card to play with, and have fun with on stream and stuff. So I just adore this. And the condition, I could see it like being a counter. Like, there could be a counter on the card in your hand, and it would like I don't know, it'd be show 1, then 2, then 3, 4, like out of 5, as you're making progress in having those cards. Or maybe it would just start glowing once you met the condition, and that's a good enough tell on its own right. So that'd be pretty neat. So just such a cool card, dude. Such a cool card. I love this one. And let me know in the comments below 5 cards that you think would work out the best with Lord Chaos. Like, what's 5 cards with these abilities that if you had them in your hand and you played Lord Chaos, it would be the best possible scenario for that big Lord Chaos play? Let me know, okay? This was super close to being number 1, but I have a different card at number 1 that I just edged this one out. But honestly, these were both like number 2 and number 1. It was like so close to being number 1. Okay, let's get to it. Number 1, Escapade by Dissonance. Okay, so Escapade here is a 2/2 ongoing. When you play a card with an on reveal effect, treat this card as its source. Thought that was so unique. That's why I gave this number 1. I thought this was such a unique idea that would be really cool to see in Snap. So the way I imagine is, let's use this example, right? Okay, so Ironheart gives +2 power to 3 other cards, right? But she never hits herself. It's 3 other cards. Well, the way I'd imagine is if you played Ironheart with Escapade out on the field, Escapade would give the +3 to other cards, and Ironheart could actually be a target to receive that +2 buff, okay? But not Escapade. So that's how I kind of imagine, and it's so cool. Like, go through your on-revealed cards and just think of the different possibilities with this, right? One that I didn't even put here is Storm. I think that would be pretty fire because you set up Escapade with maybe a few other cards. You can play Storm elsewhere and it will flood Escapade's location, leaving a spot open. She can just kind of use that. And why is that sick? Because then next turn, I'll play like Groot or something at a different location, right? Or maybe after it's all said and done, the location has been flooded, I can play like Black Panther at a different location, buffing Escapade. You know, there's a way to continuously get power at the flooded location because she's going to continuously trigger those on reveals. Or then maybe even like White Tiger or Ultron, dude, Doctor Doom. Like the list goes on. You can get so many crazy on reveals. And, you know, some of them are not good. Like some of those token spawning ones aren't that great because White Tiger is going to do it for you anyways. And then it's reverse if you have a flooded location. But you get the idea is that you can use this as your trigger and then maybe stack on top of it. Like if you have a Wong set up and then you play Escapade at that location and it's going to trigger those on reveals moving forward, you don't have to worry about where you're playing those on reveal cards because here is my favorite part about this card. And if you didn't know, I was talking about this earlier with Infernite, but this is a fantastic option to get away from Cosmo. Of course, if somebody plays Cosmo in this lane, you're screwed. But if they play Cosmo a little bit too soon, they play it elsewhere, you can play Escapade and then play all your on reveals in that Cosmo lane and not worry because Escapade is going to be the one triggering the abilities. So I feel like this could be like a sneaky workaround on Cosmo. But yet Cosmo still denies this and is a counter, so that kind of sucks. Okay, here's another one. Okay, Magneto could be pretty neat, right? Magneto goes there, 12 power. Sometimes the downside to Magneto is you actually pull the cards over. You don't really want to do that. That's too much power, and then you don't win the game. But what if you just get the 12 power, and Escapade is going to move those cards over to her location, opening up even more potential to win the other two? That's pretty spicy. Or what about Galactus? You set up Escapade early at a location, right, by herself, and then you Galactus elsewhere, and then Escapade would be the one to get the trigger on the on reveal for the Galactus. Spicy? Necessary? No, not at all, but kind of neat. I thought it'd be funny. It'd be a little bait and switch. Like, what if they did deny your Escapade, like the Enchantress or Rogue did or something like that, and then bam, you Galactus elsewhere? I don't know. I thought it'd be pretty fun. Boom. So there you go. That is the top 10/11. I know I kind of cheated this week, but hey, what can you do? For the dual keyword challenge, amazing submissions as always. I always look forward to going through these cards, reading about all your creative ideas. It's a really good time. And next week we got the power challenge. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with for that one. I think it's pretty open-ended, but I want to see some powerful cards. Let's go. Let's see some of that power. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.